All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Thursday. We are on another episode of the M Initiative. Today, bringing back a couple people from the Channel Strong Tour 2.0. Of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ken Patterson, minus a beard again. And of course, our race car guru, we'll get into that in a little bit, Mr. Pete Busam from Equilibrium Consulting. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. How are you, George?
You know, it's a little rainy, a little wet. It's finally starting to get that cold weather kind of sinking in here into Philadelphia area, Pennsylvania. So I guess this is what we expected this time of the year, right?
Well, we're speaking Channel Strong, right? That was last week. We were all rainy.
Well, a couple weeks ago now, and thank God we did it in October. Even with the rain, it wasn't cold. We were all worried about cold, and it ended up being actually pretty warm.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I definitely should have packed more shorts.
I was thankful for that, being that I have thin blood.
You have thin blood. Yeah, well, when you didn't used to have thin blood, you were just across the bridge, so you know how
That's
cold
true.
it gets.
I do. I don't miss it.
Yeah, I hear you, Pete. I do, buddy. So it was actually interesting. A couple things that So Pete actually joined us in person, kind of last second on the second week of our 2.0 tour, which is great. We love being able to see Pete out on the road with us, which probably may not happen again until next year. Pete, you actually one of the things I thought was cool was you had business cards with like an NFC type thing built in, where like you tap the back of the phone and your contact shows up on the screen.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That was cool. So that was like, so now it's like, hey, you only walk around with one business card, and then like you just transfer your information, right?
Absolutely. Very cool. Just the NFC, and you just go and tap the phone, contactless, right? Everything's contactless, or at least as much as we can get these days. So bang. If they got NFC turned on the phone, they got your business card and everything.
I thought that was pretty cool, right? Because you're like, hey, where's your phone? I'm like, right here. Bing. I was like, oh, well, how about that? Just showed right up.
Yeah. No, it's as everybody pivots, you got to look for those opportunities.
I can't tell you how long and like for forever, I've been wondering why business cards still exist. I know Patterson's thought the same. I'm sure he'll speak for himself, but I mean, and then like everybody's comparing business cards, how thick, how round, how shiny, and I was like, why are we still?
Because of the awards. Because they want to put them in a bowl, and if they're thicker, if someone reaches in for a prize, they're going to pull their business card out. That's pretty much the only thing I could see it useful for. Other than that, they sit on a desk somewhere. Sometimes don't ever get scanned into your computer. I think Pete's on to something. I like the idea of having to collect 50 cards and then try to remember to input them later.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you go to a trade show and they scan it so it goes right into a spreadsheet or something. Now you've got that personalized touch where, hey, everybody wants contactless type things where they don't have to touch somebody else's device or pens. Pens are like, I went to the doctor today and they using the same pen and sharing it with everybody, but they wiped everything down except for the pen.
So right? I thought I thought maybe this is just, I know every state's different, but like, weren't you supposed to like have clean pens and then dirty pens and then like
that's how we have it?
Yeah. Them into the
other but whatever, they're not. It just what we say and how everybody actually follows every guideline is not. So I thought I saw this as an opportunity to say, hey, this is it's a great way to show that you're changing with the time, and it's pretty cool because it's like just an app that you can go in and customize with all your information, as much or as little that you want to put in. So
no, that's cool. If that whole, like at one point I remember there was a thing where like you'd have an app on your phone and I'd have an app on your phone, you touch your phone, right? Yep. Like that never took off, but this doesn't even need that. So like I'm wondering if this actually will kind of take hold a little bit.
I don't know. I think it's all about, how it's pushed out. I mean, certainly it's something that we're showing to our customers now and saying, here's an opportunity for you to show, hey, you're a tech company, use some high tech stuff, bring it to your customers or do it yourself. So your customer says, wow, there's a little bit of wow factor that's going to do some differentiation, but
I don't know about
fun.
you, Ken, but I got business cards everywhere, man. Like they're on my
Oh,
floor. All those.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what I mean. They end up everywhere, and I don't mean to lose them. And then every now and then, hold on, I go like this. Oh wait, did I meet this guy and maybe not input his information? And then I pull out the. Oh, no, here's a cool card. This company's no longer in business anymore. I still have it in the plastic. Check this out. It's metal.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. It's got this whole different feel. I'll tell you what. You got to pull this out. It's literally a piece of aluminum. Like it's crazy. So this one I kept just because I thought it was cool, but I had a whole stack of them in my drawer, and I'm like, you're right. You're like looking around for them, and you never put them in, or like, oh, I meet this person.
In my drawer, you know how you get the box of your business cards? If I get them into the CRM is one thing, but then I take the business cards and I stack them in there. So I've got these box upon box just stacked in my drawer. Exactly, right?
Yeah.
You use the old boxes to store all the business cards.
Like it's like a
But
baseball
think of how much
card
money.
holder.
Think of how much money you spend a year on business cards, especially on the channel side, going through, everybody, when we had all of these great events and you were giving out 250, 500 at a clip, right? So, what do you save? This device is like 35 to 50 bucks one time, and boom, you just got it. It's there. And it's really cool too, because you can brand, like I just did this as a demo. It's probably getting a little bit of light and shimmer on it. Let me see if I can, but
That's good.
it can have your logo, it can have your name, just like the front of it. So you can show it to somebody while you're tapping or whatever you want to do with some branding. So you can do one side, and of course, on the back side, for people that don't have NFC on it, it's got your own QR code. So either way, you're covered, right? They can scan it contactless or tap it.
Yeah, when I get to the point where I have to shred, Ken, it's like I feel like I'm on business cards for the first half hour.
I feel, you feel bad. You almost feel bad doing it, right? It's like, oh man, I don't know if I should do this, but I actually try to put them into LinkedIn. So Pete, when you scan that, can it automatically connect to LinkedIn and do that as well? Facebook to connect.
So it in your profile, when you build your profile, it lets you put your links in to the media that you want. So again, it's a little app that lets you actually go in and scan and put as much or as little information as you want. It's just limitless. So you can put your logo, you can put your picture, you can put, whatever you want, and add those things in, your company address, your phone numbers, your mobile, whatever it is. And when you tap it, it automatically will give you like those little icons that it comes up in the app to go to the social media, or it gives you an orange one. I
was
think if
actually
you remember.
trying to go back and see if I had it on my phone still, because it pulls up as a browser tab.
Yep.
But then I just switched phones. That's a story for another time. Ken knows all about it. And but I did say I've been on iPhone for a long time, although I'm a Microsoft guy. Although funny enough, and I'll get back to this in a second though. But anyway, so like I hit the 500 tab maximum in Safari on the iPhone. It's like, do you want to close all your tabs? Like, no. No, just start closing. But yeah, no, that did not come over your page at pop. But anyway, long story short,
once you click that orange button though, it brings up the Outlook, and it's saved to Outlook. That profile gets saved to Outlook, right?
I was so enamored with it, I left it up on my screen to go check it out later, and then I ended up switching phones unexpectedly.
And you know what's really cool? It puts in your Outlook profile a link. So if my information ever changes, you click it and it'll update my information.
There you go.
Right.
That's
so
cool.
It kind of follows you as a profile. So it's really slick,
That's
really,
awesome.
Really slick little device.
No, hey, that's like I said, business cards. I swear I've been talking about this for a decade. Like we just need to get out of the habit of them. But anyway, long story short,
printing companies are not happy.
Yeah, tell me about it. That being said, no, I thought that was cool because Pete, that was a new kind of thing I never had seen in action. Pete brought that on the tour, and then Pete decided to bring up one of his, Pete, why don't I just give you the microphone for a second? I don't think people know about you that, when you're not helping people make things look pretty and get their marketing figured out, you race cars for fun.
I do. I'm a novice racer. Of course, I haven't been officially on track for about 4 years. a little over 4 years because I took my 93 Nissan 300ZX and I decided to put it into a spin going into a straightaway and hit a wall in reverse at 95 miles an hour. So I kind of bent it up a little bit. So right now there's 2 chassis in the garage. One's got nothing in it. It's going out to paint and body, and then I'm going to strip the other one, move everything over. So I've got a new one to go out and bend up, hopefully not really bend up, just slide into grass if I do it, instead of the only place on the track that had a wall.
So why don't you explain to people, I mean, obviously I assume COVID versus non-COVID time may be different, but what does it take to actually race cars competitively, even at the like novice level? And what kind of equipment are you riding around in so people can, and maybe we'll visualize, maybe we'll show your car up on the screen.
I got it on my screen now. I just need to be able to share my share.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
Ken.
I was gonna actually make it a background, but Ken, if you've got it, go right ahead.
Of course I got it. I love that car.
I think the guru behind the scenes needs to unlock the sharing, but she'll
Yep,
take care.
Sade knows what to do. She did it for me the other day too.
Yeah, she's good.
Yeah. So you know, we've gone out, and over the years, you know, just to get in and have this hobby, it's you go out, and of course I call it a hobby because it's, you know, one of those things that takes your time and your money away from you, probably more money than time. But you go out and you spend time on the track, you get seat time. And the more seat time you accumulate, the higher you advance. That allows you to race in certain classes. Certainly, if you're going to go into more of like a semi-pro setup, you have to do some really crazy things to your car, like cages and nets and moving where the gas tank is and the battery and all that, all kinds of safety type things. But the places that I like to run and play in are more of a stock. So you have to keep your car as stock as possible. Otherwise you lose points, right? So when you go through an inspection, they look at your car and they say, oh, you did this, you're going to lose, or you're going to be penalized 15 points because it's not stock, right? And so it's supposed to be you're in a group that's running of similar nature cars, similar horsepower, similar weights, and things of that nature. So you're kind of equally, and it comes down to the driver, right? So, and obviously in that last one, the driver didn't do real good going into the wall, but but that's really how you get into it. And over time, then you apply and you get what's called a novice race license that allows you to go out and do that. But
cool. Ken, go ahead and share, man. I think we got you figured out.
I don't think so, but let's check it again. Hold on here. And I was also looking for, I have a whole bunch. Oh, sure, prove me wrong. And it's going to be a little orange because I use the blue screen stuff to cover your, actually, I should probably turn that down, but can you see that?
There it is.
There she is.
Is it a little orange?
Oh, it looks good. Looks good.
I don't know if it comes across, but I have screen filtering stuff for the eyes.
So this is a 2010 Nissan GTR, and it was specially flagged. I don't know, Ken, if you've got other views that you'll be able to show, but we've, you know, this is officially the Channel Strong. We've got the one logo on there, but we've got the back and front windshield banners on there, and this car, you know, has not seen much action. Relatively new to the collection here, but this is the Channel Strong sponsored 2010 Nissan GTR with how much horsepower, Ken?
Too much, baby. Too much. 700 horse.
700
by the way,
horsepower.
You know, if Chad's watching, no disrespect to his Corvette, but he took one ride with you and was pretty much done with the idea that he would even want to race you.
Well, I have to admit, it was fun being able to take turns driving this thing around the various parking lots. And it definitely, Beth chimed in. She's like, it was so fun and scary to drive. I agree, Beth. It was definitely fun.
Although Beth had a different approach as she was driving it and cranking up a little bit of the engine. She turns around and she says, it just sounds so beautiful. And I was like, I don't think I ever heard it called beautiful, but I agree. It's got a nice, beautiful sound. And
it sounded really great when you pulled out on the highway to ski at Chad.
That was right. I remember we had a situation where we thought we might have had to make a emergency Chick-fil-A run. And I was like, "What, this guy's going to take this thing out on the road, and every cop in a 5-mile radius is going to be there."
Well, we did go out and make an emergency run for some. What did we get, Ken? In Cincinnati.
Jimmy John's.
Jimmy John's.
Jimmy John's.
We ran out to Jimmy John's, Clay and I, and Clay got pinned back to his seat on the one area, and he was like, "Okay."
Oh no, that was the pizza place.
Cool. Yeah, we went and got pizza.
Yeah,
that's right, because
you and Clay went
fits.
to the pizza place to pick up the pizza.
The pizza boxes fit perfectly in the trunk, so they don't slide. It's like a perfect pizza delivery vehicle. Could you imagine?
Guaranteed delivery in 1.5 minutes.
With all the pizza, with all the cheese slid forward or back over the hot pie.
I thought you were talking about when me and you went to Jimmy John's and all the kids in there weren't even paying attention to our orders because they were like, "Check out the car."
Yeah. Yep. It's definitely a head turner.
Yeah. I was like, "Hey, they're talking about your car, Pete. They don't care what your order is."
But
yeah, you all remember the Jimmy John's commercial where they're faster than the fire department, so they just kept on calling Jimmy John's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was definitely fun to get it out there, and we had some other great cars on the road too.
That's right. We actually had good representation.
Up at Ascent, they had some. Dean had some beautiful cars that he pulled in. I thought Ken almost started drooling on the GT.
The GT, that's just that's my jam right there. I like that car a lot.
Yep. And
Ken definitely took time to, do some window shopping, I think.
Some window shopping. Yeah. I'm either gonna steal it or buy it, one or the other.
Right.
Drive it like you stole it.
Here we go. This was the GT.
Yep. Yep.
There you go.
What a beautiful car. And then right behind that, that's a Triumph Stag. And that was a very, I actually had one of them way back when in blue. I had a 68. That was a 72. But Buick had a all aluminum V8 engine that was just horrendous with 2 carburetors on it. And you'd start the car and it would stop working. There's Beth. Yep.
And you guys see, that's how I remember where I am. Did you see the one before that?
I did.
Every place I go, I told you this, George. Every place I go, I snap the photo because if I come back and I don't remember where the hell I am, because I don't like to take the car key. And I've done that. I've taken the key, gone back to my room, like, oh crap, what number was this?
Yes, for sure. Anyway, Darren says one of my clients just got one. Do it. They only go up in value. There you go, guys. Ken, it's time.
There we go. Not quite. We know where that time will be.
I understand exactly what you're saying. Anyway, back to the tour. So Pete, we had our friends Beth and Marie who actually are joined us today in our participants line here, and we asked them, some things along the tour that everybody has a different view. So we figured we'd ask. I'm going to start with Ken's favorite question. And I know you were only with us for the back end, but was there anyone, food truck, restaurant, food takeout, that you just really liked more than anything else?
Well, I got to say, up in, I think it was Cleveland, the hamburger truck.
Oh, that's what
those classic.
Pittsburgh or Cleveland?
Pittsburgh, yeah. That was up at Ascent, right, with the
Yes.
GT. Yep. So that hamburger truck, their gourmet hamburgers were just awesome. That was some good. Although the barbecue in Lexington wasn't too far off.
I didn't get a chance to partake of the barbecue. I was too busy loading a truck.
Yeah. Now, Kathy Martin told me that company is like number 1 or number 2 in the region for.
Wow.
There was the Red, and then there's another one.
Barbecue, was it?
Yeah. And then there's another one called like Blue State. And they go back and forth. But she said that, if somebody's having Red State barbecue, you better go get some. So it was good.
I should have taken some to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right, get some Uber Eats and have it delivered.
Yeah, from Lexington to Philadelphia. Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to work out too well. Especially on the delivery charge. So we talked about stories, we all had a chance to talk to a lot of MSPs along the tour. And I brought up a story about a guy who had a retail storefront actually out of that Pittsburgh event. Funny enough, and they were talking about how the retail storefront wasn't doing so hot, but that they were getting by with their MSP side of their business. Was there any story from anyone that you talked to along the trip that stuck out for you at all?
I don't know that there was any one. What I think I heard was really a consistent message to see how resilient the channel really is, and how everybody was able to pivot so quickly. The stories, although in very various regions that we were at of the states, everybody seemed to have pivot, and very much, initially how they got locked down and there was a lot of confusion, but they were able to take care of their customers, and then they came back. And now as things are opening more back up, they're going into, facilities or doing more project work or things of that nature. So it appears that the MSP community is very healthy, and strong, and that's I heard that consistently. Although I heard a lot of fun stories as we built some relationships and all that some I could repeat, and some I just leave off to the side because they were good. But I think overall I can't say there was any one standout other than everybody survived, and they're strong, and they're even or growing just a little bit, or some are growing more than others. Because
I know, Ken, you said one guy wouldn't come out because one of the hosts was buying up everybody else in the area.
Yeah, be careful. He's going to reach out to me about that. They still want to know who that was. I don't remember if I could dig that up, but yeah, they were nervous because they said that was that particular MSP was buying a lot of people out, and I'm like, that's the best person to get to know.
Yeah, you would think, right?
Yeah.
We did hear a couple of people who are in the process of looking to sell their businesses along the tour. I know I heard that at least twice. Where people are actively shopping, right, for to sell their businesses. And I remember asking the one guy, was this something you were working on before, or is this because you're just trying to get out because of the current times? The one guy definitely said, yeah, we're trying to get out because of the times. And I was like, well, make sure all your stuff's in order so that you don't get, the bad end of that stick. And then the other guy was actively working on this prior to COVID. And obviously everything kind of got paused, right? Because everybody kind of didn't know where things were going. But it seems like things are definitely back on that front. I was just talking to the CEO of NetGain, who was our last stop in Lexington earlier, I think last week, and he said that they're trying to get one or two acquisitions done before the end of the year, before maybe tax laws change and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But Ken, what's your any advice or any conversation around, hey, here are the things that you should be worried about if you're trying to get out fast, or subsequently, here are the things that you should be paying attention to if you want to make sure that you get, the proper value for your company.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't rush to dump, because that's where you're not going to get the value, right? I mean, if you're just, we all know, you don't do things when things are really bad. That's when people are going to take advantage of you. When things are really good, that's when you really want to sell. So, being prepared, making sure that, like you said, George, your ducks are in a row. Is everything in place? Are your contracts in place? Does your monthly recurring revenue make sense? Is your EBITDA at a good place? The value has to be there. It's really not rocket science in a lot of cases. Are you from 17 different places? That's going to hurt your valuation. All the things that we talk about, George, about how you have to, how to get prepared. If you're just doing it because times are bad, honestly, I would say stick it out and try to ride it out until maybe things are medium. But at least you're building your business to the point where it's going to be more sellable, because if you're riding this into a buyer's market, you're going to not have a real good, unless you have great value, unless you're already in the great places. If your EBITDA is great and your valuation is high because you have strong contracts in place and not a lot of people would leave because of a change like that. And also, you have to really know how to evaluate buyers, right? I mean, we hear this all the time, George. People come in and they say, we're going to offer you the world. And at the end, they're like, holy crap, that was the worst thing I ever did. If you care about your employees, Are you taking care of their needs when you sell to somebody that could let them all go or run the business into the ground or whatever it may be? So there's a lot to consider there. I would definitely seek out help. I would talk to other peers in the industry who've done this. Guys like Matt Lee, who's been through acquisitions or at least, acquiring new companies. And I'm sure he'd be pretty open about the things he knows about. Guys like Zach Paulson from True IT, who has made acquisitions good and bad. So he has the bad side of acquisitions. Just people who have been through it and done it, you're going to have a better shot at getting an understanding of what you're up against. And you may hear it's not a good idea to do it right now, because in the long run, your business is going to be gone. There's no chance to get it back after that. And
it was interesting in talking with the CEO of NetGain. He said, we laughed about IBIDAC, right? With Corona.
Right. Yeah. With Corona, right?
Although it's a real thing, like we joked about it, but it's like a legit thing.
You have to take it into effect when you're talking about EBITDA.
And then he did come back and say that, if you're like, there's different ways to do any deal, right? Like everyone acquisition is not the same. I mean, Pete, I know you have some stories about this as well. I'm happy to hear your opinion. He did say that, if you're planning to stay, right? If you're the owner and you sell and you're going to stick around and help grow it, they're a little bit more willing to take on some risk, knowing that you being there, they may not have to go as deeply into turning over every rock like they would. They know, hey, we're wiring you the money and you're gone. What do you think, Pete? What's your experience with this?
Yeah, I mean, I've acquired and been acquired. So, it's two-way street. I always say, when I advise people, I couldn't agree more, Ken, with what you're saying on making sure all your ducks are in order, make sure your processes are documented. The more maturity you show, the higher the value you can get, and it can stretch way past your EBITDA if you've got those pieces in place, right? But the other thing that I always say is be careful of brokers. There's some that are buyer side and there are some that are seller side. And sometimes I've heard people being a seller, but they choose a buyer broker. And that doesn't necessarily, because they're not aware. They've talked to somebody that said, oh, this guy does acquisitions, so you should talk to them. So, there's some really good guys out there. I don't know if you know George Sergio, but he's more of a buyer's side. But he's one of those guys too that'll tell you right up front, hey, I'm better at representing the buyer. So, I've got some buyers, but very well that you have to be careful at that point at what you disclose to the broker up front before you get into that non-disclosure agreement. Because if you haven't vetted them all the way and they're on the wrong side of the house and they've got a bunch of buyers lined up, now they know where your vulnerability might be and what your reason for selling, like Ken was saying, are you just trying to get out before it becomes a firestorm or a dumpster fire or of a type thing? Yeah, well, it's one of your favorite phrases, right, George?
I use it often for sure.
But you have to be careful with that. And I learned that on my acquisition that I had made back in mid 2000s of a company in Philly. We had bought a partner. And although it was good, we ended up with an owner that stayed on because there was a relationship, but that person just sat in their chair and we had structured the agreement improperly. So there was no reason for them to perform, right? They could just basically wait out their 2 years and then go out the door and have collected what we bought them out for, plus the other part, because the base was a recurring base and it was generating, so it was doing it on its own, and there was no account management or growth that came from that person, which is what we expected. So, there's pluses and minuses. And on the other side, when I got bought years ago, and my company got part of General Dynamics, I opted not to stay with the company, but I had a 2-year earnout. So without having to be there, it was a great deal. So for 2 years I collected money on a company that I had no affiliation. So I had a quick out, I didn't want to be part of the merger, but I wanted to be tied to those contracts because they were long term and they were guaranteed. So I was able to negotiate as an owner a piece of it, even though I wasn't there to facilitate and do it. So, just some things that I learned over my time.
There's
Yeah, I just
definitely-
want to add to that quick, George, Pete. That worked out great for you, probably because you did your homework, because that also can work out very poorly when you're not in the mix and things are tanking. You're not collecting anything on that, right? So sometimes not being involved can be a bad thing if you didn't do your homework on how those contracts worked. Like you said, they were guaranteed, so that made it probably easier for you. But they have to do their homework on that as well, thinking, oh, I'm just going to walk away. Everything's going to land. I'm going to get mailbox money every month, and then find out that the company tanked those accounts, that something bad happened because you weren't involved with it. So there's kind of that mix, making sure you know exactly how that's going to line up.
Yep.
So there's definitely, guys. I mean, we could probably talk about this for a couple of hours. I mean, there's definitely a financial science to this, but then there's the art of the deal, I guess. And I'm not trying to borrow the name of the book, but there's definitely a negotiating angle here that changes every deal, right? So definitely worth keeping paying attention to if you're going to go down that road. Ask questions, seek out advice before you just fire sale, because that's you hate to find buyer's remorse at the end, right, or seller's remorse.
Yeah. And a big thing Ken said is talk to the peers that have been through it.
Yeah.
Learn lessons from those that have had successes or failures in it, to kind of say, what am I really after here?
Sure.
Right.
And then the other thing that we found, and the girls from Rocket Cyber definitely felt that this was a theme, was that there was a lot of MSPs on the tour, and this echoes the first go around, right? That are collaborating, right? We had heard a story. They brought up a story about a guy that was heavy in cabling, kind of partnering up with the MSP who was doing the services side, or hey, guys who are heavy on cloud migrations, working with guys that just didn't get deep into it, or just a bunch of different partnering type scenarios that just help move the needle forward, because you need it now rather than having to kind of feel and muscle your way through it. Not knocking Ken's Azure boot camps or anything like that, but mastering that kind of stuff takes time. And you're probably going to make some mistakes along the way, and probably pay a bill that you weren't expecting to pay somewhere along that. And it's probably the worst time to figure out that you miscalculated something.
Yeah, well, it's also, I mean, we found that across the board with the collaboration piece, which we all talk about, is much more important, right? I mean, that castle mentality of people that didn't come out to the event because they felt like their competition was there. It's like,
that's true.
Get your butt out there and learn something from them. Forget about the competition. That's not even it shouldn't even be a worry. So some of the collaboration was even, like you said, we have MSPs that don't do medical at all, but they call other MSPs who do, and then they refer business back and forth very successfully. No ethical issues, no worries about stealing, because the community as a whole gets that. And I think that we saw more of that on the trip, because these MSPs were like, oh, yeah, you helped me with X, right? And they were all, in Michigan, we saw that, right? The 3 or 4 of the guys all knew each other, were talking to each other. And then I think even at the event, they came up with some plan to help each other out on some projects they were working on. So that's the stuff that can get you so much further in your business, by getting the help right from people that you might not expect it, right? You're worried about your competition. I think somebody coined the phrase cooperation, which is word, right? Because these people, they're not looking to steal business. They're looking to find ways to make it better, and doing it with other MSPs is a great way to go.
Yeah, that is absolutely. I mean, I said the word castle mentality forever. I mean, almost like if you didn't break out of your moat and start to talk to other people around you, you're at a more severe disadvantage, even just not knowing what's happening around you, right? Are things okay? Are they running into the same challenges you are? Or are you missing something, right? So, Pete, what did you get that vibe on the tour?
Yeah. I mean, the power of peering is strong and it's alive, and the more that I think those that have recognized that are some that again are up in that operational maturity upstream a little bit, that say, you know what, they're really not a threat to me. I shouldn't view them that way. When is your competitor, and when are they your friend? and you have to evaluate that. But there's a lot of things where there's just some core skills that might be missing where another one of those peers has it. And that's a lot of what we're talking about and what we saw. And all of us have been involved in supporting peer groups for how long now? We see it every day, but the smaller guys that are coming up through it, they're starting to realize that can really get their business way jump started a lot quicker on growth. So.
Yeah, it's amazing how like the people who are in the peer or accountability groups, I know like every peer group is slightly different, but like when you start to really crack open books and share challenges and figure out like, hey, I had an employee problem here, you already went through it, what shouldn't I do? Or hey, I'm running into this issue trying to find funds to grow the business or whatever, right? Like you start to get into more of just the cordial conversation. You start getting into the stuff that you wish you had a partner on, right, to talk to on a day-to-day basis. So, I get not every, obviously once you get into some of those groups, you got to sign non-disclosures because you're putting, kind of private information out there, stuff like that. And we get that, but it's nice to be able to lean on somebody else and get business, decision maker feedback sometimes.
Yeah. And just the ability that you can have a friend that might have been through the experience before that you can run it by, even on just a private phone call, one-on-one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's something that every MSP should be doing. I mean, we just George, we were on our call last week, and a smaller guy jumped on there, started asking questions, and he had a little nerve with me about how he was struggling to get to the $1 million mark, right? And first thing I did was think of our MSP friend down in Louisiana who had that same goal and got that last year or the year before, so it was very fresh in his mind. Just called me yesterday and said, hey, I just had a conversation with this guy, broke through a couple of walls, and they're, you know what I mean? So like it works. We've seen so many examples of how it works, that, it's just something I highly recommend. And we saw that across the board, right? I mean, almost every stop, people knew each other, started talking to each other, collaborating a little bit if they already hadn't been collaborating. Really good stuff.
No, I love, all things aside, right? Like this whole thing of us being on the road was not a sales pitch at all, right? It was just straight up hallway beer conversation or bar time conversation. I love being able to walk away and seeing people build something new or connect with somebody new that they hadn't done before. And that really makes me feel like, and again, not to knock all the virtual event stuff, and we've all done it, right? I mean, we're doing it now kind of, but not an event style. I just, as much as everybody's trying to make it work, man, not being able to have that, have that community vibe definitely burns, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, so, Pete, thinking back to the tour, and again, I know you were driving, your race car and your trailer around. We had some weather on the back end, right? It was a little rainy that second week versus the first week, but you know what? We actually had a pretty good turnout despite the rain.
Yeah.
I think we maybe not have driven the car as hard around the parking lot those days, but
well, some of those parking lots weren't big enough either.
That's true.
So,
that's true. The one
next time we need to have like a place where, it's like where we had a place where we could go out to a nice straight line and do it and have some fun with it, or, somewhere that you can have it at a track. Of course, that would be.
Well, maybe on the next tour, we'll figure out how to stop by a track and give it a run.
Yeah, put a dash cam on and show people's facial expressions as you peg that thing.
Roller coaster photo. Pete's gonna be like, I'm not sure I'm gonna want people drag racing my car down the line. Okay, all right.
No, they won't. I will.
Pete will be driving. They'll be in the passenger seat, and just make sure you have some kind of plastic covering on your seat.
Please sign your waiver here.
Yeah.
Waiver is important, yes, for sure. Pete, you talk to a lot of MSPs on a regular basis, like we do. What's working? What's winning right now? Where are you finding your people are actually at, either winning opportunities or growing or doing something out of the norm that's working for them?
So, being a marketing guy, I think they've all won with their customers by showing they can respond early, they could pivot, they could help them, and they could get them where they needed to be and bring them back. So they've shown that as much as it puts stress points on their organizations, for the most part, they've all been able to expand out to endpoints that they never had to support before and come back. So I think those that did that and did it well really, won with their customers and may have built a customer for life. I think it's going to be really tough for them to change after going through and getting attached to show how they took care of them. I think there's a lot of loyalty and commitment that it shows from those providers. But the ones, in addition, then what I see where these guys are winning is they're willing to pivot their marketing from traditional methods over to some creative other ways. We talked about the business card, right? New creative ways that are different, that are recognizable, and they're memorable. And so, doing advertising digitally to, using data-driven analytics to really say, if I send a postcard, is it going to get to anybody anymore? Well, there's nobody in the office. So by the time they get it, it's like a manufacturer sending you a lead, right? It could be 3 weeks old before you get something from an HP or a Lenovo. It's just the speed that you might be touching that customer is going to be too far in between. So pivoting to all these digital things, companies that, just like we've shifted budgets from trade shows to do different things like a Channel Strong roadshow, or they've had to do the same thing and rethink how they're spending their marketing dollars. So, success is up on LinkedIn advertising. I don't mean like go click with somebody and have it spam email you right away. I mean like really going out and doing right. George is famous. No,
but I'm going to stop you right there. We've talked about, me and Ken and about everybody else I know is like, dude, if you send me a LinkedIn request and I accept, do not have the auto spit out at me like 2 seconds after I say yeah. It's like, if you're using some sort of automation tool, set that to 5, 7, 8, 10 days later. For the love of God, don't do that at the same time.
Don't even do that. Do something that's more personal. I know you want to reach a lot of people and the automation does it, but hey, if you've got a targeted list, do it. Like I get in-mails from somebody that friends me and it's somebody else that's in my space. Like, do your math before you send it, or do your driven analytics, right?
I'll give everybody a tip right now that's been working real well. Like people like to feel the personal touch, right? Everything's super automated these days. If we're talking about LinkedIn, send a video message via LinkedIn. I promise it works way better than anything else you can do through that.
Well, make sure it's about them, because to the points of everything that was just being said, I get LinkedIn's all the time, and then I get the message and I read it, and a lot of times it's stuff like, hey, do you want to fix PEX8's issues? And it's like, with marketing or something. I'm like, PEX8 has issues with marketing? Like, not really. So are you trying to get to me? And then I'll get other ones like, Ken, as an MSP, and it's like, I'm not an MSP anymore. So that's an immediate turnoff. They don't know who they're talking to. They're not, it's clear that it's just an automated push out. And then immediately it's like, boom, goodbye. So if they came to me and said, Ken, as someone who used to be an MSP, now approaching the community, do you think something like XYZ could be helpful? I'm going to take a look. At least it's a little bit more, based on me as what I do. And I think that's the same with any MSP. If you're sending stuff out to lawyers and it's talking to them like they're doctors, it's going to be gone really quick.
Yep. And so that's a big no-no in my book, is the automation. I always tell everybody, if you're going to link with somebody, send them a personal message. Just don't send a link, right? How do you know who recommended? Maybe they link up or something like that. And don't just be the regular, hey, we have a lot of mutual friends. I was looking to get in touch with somebody, and I talked with Alec the other day, and he said, yeah, just tell him I recommended to chat and that he would be able to help you out. And bang, they accepted. I didn't even have to send a message after that. They responded right to the message and said, here's exactly what, who you need to chat with or whatever.
While we're on the topic, and I guess Ken kind of briefly touched on it, but I'm gonna maybe put it all together right here. There was some talk about early on in COVID where some MSPs use the kind of negative channel of marketing, right? Have you heard from your IT company? Are they around? Can they help you? Are they fast enough? And then, like, we've all seen whether it be the Google AdWords play or different scenarios where, people try and use the negative route, right? Hey, having problems with, looking for better, wish had better X from, like this, like you have with this company. Pete, like, you're a marketing guy, people, trust your judgment. Does the negative route really work? Is it worth it? Or is it better to position it towards the positive way?
So yes, the negative works right now because, when you're selling on emotion, right? Emotion is what gets you through the door a lot of times. So the people or the firms that were not able to respond, or they responded and now they're supporting these remote endpoints like they don't have the resources to stretch and maintain, right? So their ticket loads went up and they weren't able to bring them back down, right? So companies where the net new business is really coming from, you used to be able to say there was like 4 or 5 things that every MSP would try and get through the door with. The backups have failed and I'm worried that they're there. I don't have peace of mind. It keeps me up all night. Who's going to breach my security? Is it going to be my employees that are going to breach it because they clicked on something, or is it going to be something that comes in from the outside? Or they've grown beyond the limits of what the service provider has. And you can pretty much narrow down right now the number one and consistent piece that's number one across the platform is the ability of response time. And they're not getting the response time. And with the people being remote and not in, they need that response time because they can't move them to another device like they could in the office. Well, you're broken here, just sit in the next cube over. So-and-so's out, or I got an extra PC. So their downtime now to keeping their people productive from work at remote or work at home or wherever they're working is more important that they get that desk side feel or touch or ability to get repaired. And when your resources are stretched beyond because you're supporting in a different model and you weren't ready for it, the response has tanked. And the providers are going in that negative saying, hey, we have a campaign. It calls it, and it's flat out called, is your IT provider a stranger? And the answer is yes. I can't see them right now anymore like I used to, even though it was only maybe 10% that they came on site to fix those desk side issues that they physically couldn't do over the wire. But we're just not hearing from them. We're seeing the tickets going up and up and up, and they're not slowing the tickets down or resolving issues. And my staff is becoming more and more non-productive. So you're non-responsive, and so I got to look at somewhere else, right? And that's where I go back to early on where I said, a lot of these guys or companies, the MSPs that are out there, they responded and they maintained. And they shrunk their ticket load because they had response. And then you get some of those smaller guys peering with them because they need that adjunct support to get their ticket load where it needs to be. And of course, then an M&A kind of conversation or a merger conversation comes in saying, maybe I should just merge into them or what have you. So we've heard a lot of those different kind of conversations when we talk and we're coaching our clients. But yeah, the negative campaigns do work, but there's a way to do it where it's not, like we can put out a headline, but then we can say, hey, you may love your current provider and they may be really great and or whatever, but are they able to do this part for you now when you need it most? And if the answer is no, we'd love to have a conversation with you. Doesn't say you should drop them dry, but let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. And those have been yielding some results.
Ken, what's your thoughts on this marketing conversation? I know we've had, in your community calls, there's been a lot of people have, had real good success early on. What's the general, vibe on this convo out there?
Education. That's been the major thing. The first thing was people were like, oh, I got to cut my marketing. And we were like, no, you got to double down on your marketing. And you got to do it differently though. It's got to be educational, right? I think education trumps everything, no matter if you're in a pandemic or not. And that's one of the things that I saw. The MSPs that were already doing educational pieces and pushing out, this is how we can help you. Are you guys getting this help? Whatever it may be, all around educating. Those were the ones that when the pandemic hit and they doubled down on that education, and then obviously the microscope got a heck of a lot, right? It just came right into, oh my God, the COVID things blew up because the CEOs and the CFOs were like, how come we're failing right now? Why did this hurt us so badly? Where's our IT guy? Where's the CTO? How did we miss all this? And now they're paying attention more, so that we found like guys like Tech Vera were saying they were doing webinars on education, and there were CEOs in the audience paying attention to what they were talking about at a much greater rate than before, right? And before it was a little bit less, and this expanded it a bit. But I really believe that education always is the best route. I feel like that the full-blown sales attack mode of some of the marketing stuff, I do believe the fear can work because let's face it, the times we're in right now are scary. So it's going to be some fear, right? Have you been affected about this? Has your team discussed these things with you? Things that are pain points for some of these places that aren't getting the love. I love Pete's thing, like, are you a stranger to your IT department or vice versa? That's a great way to run. The big thing was education, running through the whole entire thing saying, listen, let us educate you on what, even if it goes to the point of, let us educate you on what an MSP should mean to you, Mr. End User. Let's just give you an education. We don't care if you use us, you don't use us. We just want to educate the world on what you should expect from your MSP. Then when you get them in a room and show them, does your company do these things? Do you know about these things? Are your efficiencies better because of the technology that's in place? At the end of that seminar or webinar or whatever, you're going to get people asking questions about, holy crap, no, my IT people do not do that. And maybe it makes them better. Maybe they come to you, but things like that, where you're just saying, hey, how can you be better? Let's educate you on what you should expect from an MSP. That to me is one of the biggest things. If I was still an MSP, that's what I would be looking for someone to say, hey, do this. And if I was a customer, just a regular, if I was a doctor's office or whatever, yeah, I'd want to know what I should be doing, what my guy should be doing, because that's the thing they don't know. None of them know what they're delivering to them.
I would agree with you, Ken. I mean, early on, there was a lot of empathy, right? Everybody had empathy, but, at some point that has to wear off and you have to get back to normal selling techniques, or at least marketing techniques as to messaging and emotion, right? So, it really becomes an omni-channel. Education is part of that omni-channel, but the initial headline that you got to hit them with might be that negative, or at least provoking the thought to drive the emotion to dig deeper. And I think that maybe instead of saying it was negative marketing, it's hey, are you getting what you need, right? And it still can be empathy, but you got to get them, you got to ask that hard question. It's like, a salesperson, what's the number one question they never do at the end of the deal? Is there any reason why we won't be doing business, and what's our next step? How many salespeople have you talked to that never ask that question when they finish their meeting? Or, I can't get the next meeting. Well, why don't you end it with setting the date for the next meeting? Just some general Captain Obvious kind of things, selling and marketing 101. But emotion is going to evoke whatever it is for them to explore further. And then getting into the education of like webinars and blogs and things like that are embedded on your site, that they would go that omni-channel approach of, you can't just put a piece out via email and not expect that to do it. You've got to have the backup materials, just like you're saying, the education, the webinars, to support that. So when they start to do their investigation, or it does invoke it, and they come to your site or look at you, you've got those materials readily available for them.
Oh,
and you kind of hit the nail on the head there too, from a standpoint. Sorry, George.
Okay.
But what you said was absolutely correct about they don't ask those questions. But let's take that a step further. Upfront contracts. Set that before you even go into the meeting. Let them know this is how the meeting is going to go. We're going to discuss some things. You're going to tell me about your business. I'm going to tell you about my business. And at the end, we're going to have a result. And it's either you're going to want to work with me, and we're going to agree that there's a next step, or you don't, and I'll help you find somebody who can. It's that simple, right? Have an upfront contract so that at the end of the discussion, they're like, oh, I really love what you have to say. Great. We agreed we're going to have a next step. Let's set that up. Right?
Yeah. Well, number one rule of selling is sell them before you even get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Send them all the information in advance so they can review it, and then spend 5 minutes and say, hey, I sent you all the information up front. Do you have any questions? Because I'm here to talk about you and listen to you. I'm not here to talk about me. So I'm here because you invited me in the door. If you didn't have some intent or desire, then we wouldn't be having this meeting. So let's get right to you. Let's get right to you. I sent you that information. Do you have the time to review it? Great. Let's move on. Here's what I have questions and the probing questions I have for you. And it's like I always say too, that, if you're going to do a network assessment like everybody wants to do, have a sheet of paper that asks them to sign before you leave that meeting to move forward on the assessment. Because it does a couple things. The first thing it does is it identifies if they're really a decision maker or not. They may have told you you were, but if they won't sign the document, are they a decision maker? All you're doing is a no cost, no obligation assessment, right? Right? So sign on the dotted line. Oh, I can't. Well, why not? Right? So you get that. And if they do sign on, you think of the emotional aspect. I'm committing to you for the very first time, right? I'm putting my name on a piece of paper. I'm making a commitment. Now I find it very hard not to follow through with you, right? So just a couple selling techniques, but the firms that have adopted that in their sales and marketing maturity are winning. They're winning. They're having 2 meetings and they're closing the deals, where the ones that are having 5, 6, 7 meetings, they're not going to get that customer. Their ROI is so, the cost of acquisition is in the thousands of dollars.
I want to talk to the guys that are getting to the 7th meeting. I mean, geez. I mean,
right?
I'm still in there.
They're missing the number one rule of sales. Go for the no.
Yep. Let's hey, right at that first meeting, do the trial close. Is there anything that we said today that would stop you from doing business with us? No. Let's set the next date. But
That's great advice.
those are great salespeople right there. They're hungry. They're driven. The mediocre, they're afraid to ask those questions. Oh, the customer will push me out the door. They won't like me. Hey, the customer asks you for expectations. Why wouldn't you ask the reciprocal of them? They're business people, right? I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste my time. Let's get down to it. But those are some practices that people are doing and they're winning. And again, in that omni-channel, using the education with an early headline that provokes it to drive them to you is key. And that's where people are winning.
Great advice. Honestly, we went all over the place in this session. I wish we had more
Right?
time.
Plus tour review. What?
Pete, how do people find you? Where do they go to find more information? Where should they connect on you? I guess, since they don't have the NFC, thing nearby.
Yeah, right. Here.
Yeah.
Camera's not working properly. No, anybody can always look me up and link with me on LinkedIn. If you want to schedule time with me, you can use my Calendly link, calendly.com/pbusam, PBUSAM. You can come to our website and put in an inquiry or get our phone number right from the website, which is equilibriumconsult.com. Or you can look at our software as a service project, connectmypsa.com, which helps connect and do some other things for sales and marketing. So.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate your time. That was a great 1 hour sprint there, and looking to chat with you soon.
Sounds good.
For everyone else,
great seeing you guys again, even though it wasn't in person.
Thanks, Pete.
We'll get there. Everybody else, this was recorded. This whole session was online. You can find it on mspinitiative.com, and you'll have links to watch all the recordings there, including this one. Come back Tuesdays, Thursdays, 1 o'clock Eastern time. We will continue on our Channel Strong Tour 2.0 recap, and we'll have some more interesting people come on board and tell you about life from their view. Take it easy, guys.
Bye, guys.